Okay. Um, Thank you, Dee. Good morning, everyone. I first of all would like to welcome everyone to this morning's rapid response webinar. You can see on the slide on your screen, this says the Community Development Institute Head Start webinar. And so I want to let anyone know who happens to be on the line who may be with CEDA. There was a little bit of confusion on scheduling the webinars and then on the registration. It is completely my fault. I take full responsibility for it. And what I wanted to tell you is if you are from CEDA, please don't run away or hang up. All of the information that you will receive today will be applicable to your situation as well if you're being laid off from CEDA. I know there is a lot of crossover of employees from both organizations, and the information that we are providing today is kind of a general nature. Um, what we want to talk with you about basically is services that are available to you as your status as what we in workforce development circles call dislocated workers. So dislocated workers are people who lose their job through no fault of their own. They get laid off. And because of that, you are eligible to receive assistance for things like searching for a new job, maybe receiving some training for retooling your skill set. There may be some things that you're concerned about in terms of what do I do about my health care coverage, what happens to my retirement benefits, how much unemployment can I get, and we're hoping to answer those and a lot of other questions this morning. So I am, in just a minute, going to turn it over to three of my counterparts. First of all, will be Kathleen Brannigan from the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. We affectionately call them the Partnership, and they are responsible for workforce development programs within Cook County. If you happen to live or work outside of Cook County, you should know that the majority of the programs that we're going to talk about today are federal programs. So even if you live outside of the state of Illinois, you can access those programs. And if you have questions about how to do that, just put something in the chat pod, and we can certainly assist you with directing you to local services. In addition, after Kathleen finishes up talking about job search and job training, we're going to turn it over to Scott Miller. Scott is from the Employee Benefit Security Administration at the U.S. Department of Labor, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about health coverage as well as retirement benefits. And then we're going to wrap it up with Leonard Gore from the Illinois Department of Employment Security, IDES. They are the agency within the state of Illinois who administers unemployment insurance benefits. So Leonard's going to detail that information for us. And then we'll do a quick wrap-up. And again, like Dee said, if you have any questions as you go along, put them in the chat pod, and we will get to them as we go. So again, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. So let me turn it over to Kathleen.
Good morning. Once again, my name is Kathleen Brannigan. I'm with the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, and this is a WIOA Rapid Response webinar for CDI Head Start, as well as any CEDA people that might be joining us today. A little bit of information about the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. What the partnership does, we represent the public workforce system for Cook County. Many people are familiar with our healthcare public system and our educational public system, but not until you go through an unfortunate job transition, people become aware of the public workforce system. We are the second largest in the country, and our service area is all of Cook County, so that would be for the city of Chicago and suburban Cook County. Again, if you need to access services outside Cook County, you can do so. We're going to talk shortly about IllinoisworkNet, which you've accessed this morning for the webinar. There is also information on IllinoisworkNet to locate a Workforce Center resource room near you. So we'll be covering that. Um, so these are some quick facts about the partnership. And what we do is we recover the dislocated worker services, programs, resources that are available to you. And we're going to do it's an overview of these programs and resources, how to access them. There's an orientation involved. But the one thing that I want to highlight and point out is that these services are available to you at no cost. And a comparative would be you could consider them outplacement services. It's a place where you can get employment. You'll be able to access employment assistance, employment placement, and training, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But again, these services are available at no cost because you've already paid for them through your tax dollars. So as you can see, in Cook County, we have 10 workforce centers and potentially growing, and we work with 49 service provider partners that are contracted by us. They are the workforce development experts and professional and work with hundreds of thousands of people. As you can see, we touch over 140,000 people a year. So obviously, we're in the business to help people get back to work. The partnership directly reports to the mayor and the board president. So we are working on a lot of employment initiatives, recruitment events, working with small, medium, large companies to help develop a talent pipeline into those companies. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So today's goal is to provide information and resources on dislocated worker programs to help prepare people going through transition to reenter the workforce. If you are in receipt of a letter, it's called a warn letter, and companies need to advise the state of Illinois when they're going to have companies and organizations, I should say, notify the state of Illinois when they're going through a separation, when there's a closure such as this one, and there's going to be affected workers. So that is when we gather as a rapid response team and provide these workshops. We go to companies in person as well as this great tool to do a webinar, which is a lot easier for people to access information, and you're going to be going up on IllinoisworkNet anyway. So again, the goal is to help train workers who have faced layoff, and the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act is the grant that is facilitated. It comes down through the Department of Labor, through the state of Illinois, through our Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. These funds are meant to help people upgrade their current skill set or train to develop new skills, all with the objective of getting them back into the workforce as quickly as possible. A little bit of information about the WIOA Act, which was recently reauthorized by Congress, and we've started as of July 1. So again, it's a federal Department of Labor grant. It provides employment assistance placement and key sector training, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, I think I've covered this, how it's administered. Here is some legal information for you that defines a dislocated worker. So you have been someone who's been laid off or terminated, who's received notice of layoff or termination due to plant closure, company closure, mass layoff, are unemployed through no fault of their own, and are eligible for unemployment and or possibly unlikely to return to their previous occupation where they had worked before. So moving along into the heart of the services, so how does WIOA help? The first thing that you will need to do is to access and attend an orientation in the Workforce Center. And in a little bit, we're going to talk about how to find a workforce center and resource room near you. But these are some of the things that can provide assistance in helping you in this transition. The WEO grant is separated in two levels of service. The first is career services and resources. So as you can see, the important point is that there is a resource center available in each workforce center, and it's a place where you can go for to utilize computers with internet access, high-speed internet access, fax machine copiers, utilize the phone for all job search related activities at no cost. So it's a good place to go to use, more than once a week to schedule yourself out. It's also a nucleus for a lot of other different agencies for people looking for jobs. Some of our offices actually have partner agencies that are co-located in that location. So it's a great place to be to receive help in a lot of different ways. So the first thing is intake orientation and assessment. Um, Everyone who is dislocated, I just want to point this out, is automatically entitled to receive benefits. And you'll want to hold on to that letter of separation because, for lack of a better word, it's like a ticket and can provide verification that you have been laid off. If for some reason you didn't receive a letter or cannot get a letter, once you're on unemployment, that can also serve as validation as well, so not to worry. Um, this is a time also I want to mention to be organized. So it's a time to pull out a folder, get a folder, keep all these important papers together, make sure all your contact information is current because you're going to be embarking on a project. A job search is a project, so good time to put those organizational skills into place. So again, getting back to career service resources, so it's a place where you can job search, and there are different workshops that are available to talk about job search, what that looks like. Um, you'll be able to attend workshops for job search, interviewing, all those different components to looking for a new job. So the other, probably most important thing, too, is once you access the WIOA grant as a dislocated worker, you will be able to work with a career coach one-on-one. And with that career coach, you will be developing an individual employment plan, and they will be someone you'll be working with very closely as you move through this transition. And part of that employment plan is putting together a resume. It's job search again, talking about that, all the new different types of methods that you look for a job. Again, touching on the resume, there's different formats. There's just different ways to submit that resume, and they can help you through that. You can attend workshops to help you educate and engage with that activity. And in the rapid response workshops, I always mention that, educate and engage, very important. Um, this is a time where it's help us help you. We have outstanding individuals, again, who will be able to work with you one-on-one or in group situations. Um, and again, experts in the field. We work with current information in terms of those components to a job search, so plenty of help. So there really is no reason not to access the WIOA grant for this assistance. Some other things, employment statistics, meaning labor market information. So you may be in a situation where you're strictly looking for a job, and that can be done. So it's getting the resume done, doing the job search, getting prepared for interviewing, and then each of our contracted service provider partners have business service units. They are the professionals who go out into the business community and develop those relationships to help develop talent pipelines into those companies for specific positions. Now, in the course of time, as you move through this process, it may be a situation where you decide, or you have decided, you've been thinking for a while, that you'd like to go back to school to retrain or to upgrade a skill set, add a new skill set. The WIOA grant can provide training resources in the form of tuition subsidy up to $8,000 in Cook County. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But that is a great opportunity. Many people we've worked with have been thinking of going back to school, but do not have the resources. This would be a great opportunity to do that. The WIOA training monies is not meant for completing a college degree or for completing or going back and getting a master's degree. What it's meant for is vocational occupational training in a variety of different sectors and occupations. Um, so again, it's part of career counseling, moving through that individual employment plan, working with their career coach, deciding potentially you want to go back to school. There are workshops, there are IT tools available, and we'll talk to that in a minute, that can help guide you in that decision making. Um, and if you do decide to go back to school to train, you'll need to put that plan together. So it's identifying the sector and identifying the occupation of what you're interested, what schools are doing the training, how much that cost, all those things, again, are available in the Workforce Center that it can help guide you, assist you in that decision-making process, um, as well as, help you to go back to school. So that's a great opportunity that, all of you can look into if you're interested. If not, again, it's a matter of resume, cover letter assistance, interviewing preparation, um, and then, job placement assistance. So great opportunities. Many companies sometimes offer outplacement services. This is very comparable. So again, no reason not to access them. You've already paid for them through your tax dollars. Some of the other things available in those workforce centers, and I'd like to say those workforce centers are nucleuses in their communities. So they're, again, partner with a lot of community-based organizations, partner with the local city or community college, with local libraries. So lots and lots of resources. Um, one statistic I always like to talk about is that, people who go through job transition these days in the workforce world really need to put in, if you're looking for that 40-hour-a-week job, you really need to put those 40 hours in. And so you should structure your week, maybe it's a couple days in the workforce center, you're going over to a community college, you've hooked into some job club over there, potentially there's some workshops available at the, within your local that you can access in the library system at your local library. So lots of great resources, and you won't know about them unless you educate and engage, and that means going into the Workforce Center. Again, there's, as you can see, there's, there are literacy activities with regards to basic work readiness. Also, there's supportive services. So if you're in need of housing assistance, relocation assistance, um, even if you're somebody who is interested in going into business yourself, these are some of the training services, again, which I've talked about. But right here you see entrepreneurial training. There is a federal program for self-employment training that you can access. And this, again, is a program that's facilitated by the Department of Labor. So you can see there's this occupational skill training. That's what I talked to, where you can get tuition subsidy to go back to school. And talking want to expand a little bit on that. So when we're talking about occupational vocational training, we're we're focusing the dollars on the key sectors in our Chicagoland region. And those key sectors are information technology, healthcare, manufacturing and logistics, business and professional services, hospitality, and retail. There are many occupations that you can train for. This would be training up to 2 years or less, and you can receive tuition subsidy, again, up to $8,000 or less. And the goal is to get people back out into the workforce with current, marketable, in-demand skills to get them back to work. Some of these other things are what we've referred to as business service tools, and these are things you'll find out about when you access the Workforce Center, but they're incentives to businesses to help people get back to work. So I'm going to move ahead here. So you're up on Illinois WorkNet already this morning, which is providing this webinar. Illinois WorkNet is it is the state of Illinois workforce development portal. Um, it was recently launched relaunched, I should say, this recently, June, July, with a lot of new information. It is an awesome tool. It can be used 24/7. Potentially many of you are using it right now. You can set up a personal account, have newsletters sent to you. It should be a key tool that you use in your job search. You're going to hear about some other things, some other IT tools to use, but they can, definitely Illinois WorkNet, can be central to helping you get prepared, as you move forward. So there is lots of resources available on there. And as you can see, there is a site for dislocated workers. It's right off here where it says Find Laid Off Worker Resources. Um, there are pathways. There are guides to help guide you through, to give you information. For instance, you can go up and do brief skill assessments. You can tap into and look at different resume formats. You can watch different portal site videos that show different formats for interviewing. So it's very helpful. Helps to get your game plan together even before you get into the Workforce Center, and then to solidify it, when you've worked with your career coach, to go back and review different things. So great, excellent tool, should definitely be incorporated into your job search. And beyond that, you can use it. I use it all the time. Many professionals use it for different information on what's current out there in our country in terms of workforce development activities. As you can see, again, we're directing you to the Laid Off Worker Step Guide, and there's all these step guides to take you through all those components. Here we're talking about if you're looking to retrain, so you can use Illinois WorkNet to go up and do research, utilize labor market information. It's very extremely well linked to many different other sites or resource sites such as Department of Labor and which provides a lot of the labor market information, as well as state sites. Here, current career field, you can research and help develop a plan to, what in terms of training would help solidify my current employment profile, skills, and work experience. So as you can see, lots of things available for you that you can access right away. This page here talks about, again, on Illinois WorkNet, how to locate a workforce center near you. So if you live in Lake County, Will County, DuPage County, locally you can go in, you can filter it how you want to screen, but, very simply you can put in your zip code or county, and it'll pull up the workforce centers near you, as well as partner service providers. The other thing I wanted to point out about Illinois WorkNet is there is available on their information about state of Illinois health insurance programs that would be specific to specific groups such as persons with disabilities, or if you're a veteran, or if you're a woman. There are different things out there which I don't think people really are aware of until they move through a situation such as this. So, definitely use it as well to research information, and you can click on it. Again, it's very well linked on the website, and the phone numbers are listed there to help you. Again, this is a tool available 24/7 to you, and you can use it again to support your employment transition here. So I've pretty much come to the conclusion of the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act information. Again, it's meant for employment assistance, placement, and training. If you do have any questions, I'll take those questions now. You can also, certainly call the partnership, and, if you need specific information, you can certainly do that. You can go up on our website and find out information about where centers are located, the partnership website, as well as Illinois WorkNet here. The one thing I did want to mention as well, the last thing, is that at the conclusion of our webinar today, and up on Illinois WorkNet, for this particular, there's a company-specific page. I didn't mention that before, for CDI Head Start. And on that, there's a survey. And if you could go in and complete that survey, that would be outstanding for us. It will ask various questions about your skill set and your employment history and your education history. And if you want to be contacted by a workforce center, if you want to access these services. So that would be really important to us, and we would appreciate if you could do that. Thanks so much. And I am wishing you the best of luck in your job transition, and as you look for new employment. Thanks so much.
Okay, this is Annie again. Thanks, Kathleen. So really, in summary, two things Kathleen talked about in terms of accessing services, and that is going into the brick and mortar places called Illinois WorkNet centers and finding their location on the IllinoisworkNet.com locator page, which, as Kathleen mentioned, there are both, if you look for layoff assistance, you can search for companies. You will see on that list the Head Start logo, and if there's anyone from CETA with us, you'll see the CETA logo. You click on there, and that's where you'll find the survey that Dee has put in the chat pod and Kathleen mentioned. And also on those pages, there is a message board that we update. So if there's anything related to this layoff event, let's say we decide to have another workshop, or there's a hiring event or anything like that, we will update those message boards on the IllinoisworkNet.com company-specific page. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to turn it over to Scott Miller, who is with the U.S. Department of Labor Employee Benefit Security Administration. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you. Again, my name is Scott Miller. I'm a Senior Benefits Advisor with the U.S. Department of Labor Employee Benefit Security Administration, and we regulate the ERISA laws that protect your benefits through private sector employers. And because of that, we're here to talk about some of the benefits that are affected during job loss. First, we're going to start by discussing your health insurance options following a job loss. We're going to talk about HIPAA special enrollment, COBRA, young adult coverage, as well as the marketplace. So starting out with HIPAA, In the past, HIPAA protected people from pre-existing conditions. Fortunately, those no longer exist under the Affordable Care Act, but something to point out here in this slide is the third bullet point. And under the Affordable Care Act, an employer cannot impose a waiting period for health insurance more than 90 days. So when you start with your new employer, they have to put you on the health plan within 90 days. And that would assume that you are a full-time employee eligible for the health plan. Now we have HIPAA special enrollment. And this is one of your first options for insurance following a job loss. If you are married and your spouse is employed and your spouse's employer provides health insurance, you and your spouse can get on that employer's insurance plan within 30 days following your coverage loss from the current job. The key is that your spouse needs to enroll you both within 30 days of the loss of coverage. So for example, if you were to lose coverage at the end of this month on August 31st, your spouse would have to enroll you in the plan within 30 days. And then that employer has to cover you under their plan no later than the first day of the month following the month that you make that request for enrollment. Now, if you already know the coverage end date ahead of time, you can already have your spouse contact their human resources department in order to get the ball rolling, and then you can be covered essentially right away. So again, if coverage were, if you know you're going to lose coverage on August 31st, your spouse can speak to human resources right now so that you guys can get ready to be covered September 1st under the other employer's plan. And this is a nice way to get covered right away and having to avoid waiting for that employer's open enrollment season. Normally, it's just a matter of filling out some paperwork, and the other employer is probably going to want something in writing from your employer showing that you lost coverage due to the job loss. So next we have COBRA. COBRA is a law that allows you to stay on the employer's group health plan for up to 18 months following the job loss. And COBRA is applicable both to private and public sector employers if the employer has more than 20 employees. And it would also include dental and vision if the current employer provides those benefits. It does not provide an extension of coverage, however, for life insurance. And again, I mentioned that coverage is available for 18 months. The downside to COBRA has to do with the premiums that are involved. When you go on COBRA, you have to cover not only the premiums that you contributed while you were employed, but also the premiums that the employer was contributing on your behalf. And then they can add an additional 2% administrative fee. So a lot of COBRA participants, when they get their COBRA election, will suffer from sticker shock because they don't realize how much money the employer has been putting towards their insurance benefits. The way that you get on COBRA is the employer has 44 days to send you out your COBRA election notice from the day that your insurance benefits end. If for some reason you do not get that notice within 44 days, you can contact my office. Our telephone number will be at the end of this presentation, and either myself or one of my colleagues can help you obtain that notice. Even though they have 44 days to send that out, we'll usually contact an employer if you haven't received your COBRA election notice within about 35 days. So once you receive your notice, the law affords you 60 days to elect whether or not you want the COBRA coverage. And then from the day that you elect, you have 45 days to make your first payment to get yourself caught up. And then usually every month thereafter, you'll have to make a premium payment by the first of the month, but the law affords you an additional 30-day grace period going forward with each of those months. COBRA is always retroactive, so any claims that you would have incurred in the meantime would be taken care of. One of the issues that you may run into is that if you have to fill a prescription, you're going to have to pay out of pocket for that. What you would do is just hold on to your receipt, and then once you've elected and paid for COBRA and the coverage is reinstated, you would submit that receipt to the plan so that you may get reimbursed for your out-of-pocket expenses. If you end up having to go to the doctor or the emergency room, they'll run your insurance and it will show as not being active. You would just want to let them know that you're on your COBRA election period, and then once coverage has been reinstated, all those claims will be taken care of by the plan. So there really shouldn't be any issue with not being able to get medical treatment. One of the nice things about the election process, even though it can take some time, it can help you to game the system, in that if you utilize that 60-day election period and then the 45-day period to make your payment, it's very likely that you'll be employed with a new employer and covered by their health insurance plan either by the time that your election is due or that first payment. So even if you're on the fence whether or not to elect COBRA, don't tell the plan that you don't want it. Either just let the 60 days lapse or elect within 60 days and then let the 45-day payment lapse. Also, you can elect COBRA for just one family member. So if right now you have family coverage and let's say either yourself, your spouse, or maybe one of your children desperately needs the health insurance coverage, you can elect for just one family member and pay the single rate for the premiums, and that'll help you save money, but make sure that that one family member who needs the coverage is taken care of. Also want to point out that any deductibles or out-of-pocket maximums that you've reached will carry over when you elect COBRA. So moving on to young adult coverage, under the Affordable Care Act, anyone under the age of 26 can get coverage through their parents' plan. So if any of you are under the age of 26, you can use the special enrollment that we had talked about before to get back onto your parents' plan. So now we have a few other options through the marketplace. So under the Affordable Care Act, each state has set up a marketplace. In Illinois, it's called Get Covered Illinois. And you have a 60-day window to get onto the marketplace. The way in which it works, you need to enroll by the 15th of the month in order to get coverage the first of the next month. So the earliest right now you could get coverage under the marketplace is September 1st. You would need to elect, or I should say enroll, by August 15th of this month. If you were to enroll on August 16th, your coverage wouldn't begin until October 1st. You can either go on healthcare.gov or you can call the telephone number that's listed here. I always suggest that people actually call to speak to one of the navigators to make sure that you're getting all the correct information for the subsidies that are provided. We had a situation where we were in a meeting with somebody, a representative from Get Covered Illinois, and this woman had gone online and she didn't think that she could afford the marketplace coverage. She thought it was very expensive and that she wasn't going to qualify for any of the subsidies. When she actually called in and spoke to a navigator, not only did she qualify for the subsidies, but based on her income level, she actually qualified for the state's Medicaid program and barely paid anything for the coverage. So there can be a significant difference in the information that you may see online if you're not properly filling out the information from when you actually will call in and speak to a navigator. Also, if you do decide to call in, make sure you set aside an appropriate amount of time. I've heard that the conversations can run for about an hour, so you just want to make sure you're not ready to run out the door and conduct some errands, that you're going to set aside the proper amount of time. There are 4 tiers to coverage within the marketplace, the highest being platinum, and then it goes down to gold, silver, bronze. Platinum obviously has the highest premium amounts, but then the plan also covers the highest actuarial value in medical coverage. It'd be considered a 90-10 plan, so the plan's covering approximately 90% of the benefits. You would cover 10%. The gold plan is an 80-20, silver is a 70-30, and the bronze plan is a 60-40 plan. There are some clarifications when we're talking about COBRA and the marketplace, if you are to, if you will initially sign up for COBRA, but later that you decide that it's too expensive, or you want to switch to the marketplace, you have to understand that that can only be done during the marketplace open enrollment, even if your COBRA coverage hasn't run out. Basically, you have that 60-day window to get on the marketplace from when your employer coverage ends, and if you were to elect COBRA first, you lose that 60-day window into the marketplace. Now, you can always get back on the marketplace during their open enrollment period, but if you miss the open enrollment period, you're going to be stuck with COBRA. Also, I had briefly mentioned the example with Medicaid. When you contact the marketplace, they're automatically going to see if you qualify for Medicaid. And the same goes for the Children's Health Insurance Program. They'll see if you qualify for this as well, or you can go to insurekidsnow.gov or call the toll-free number that's listed. So now we're going to move on to some things in regards to retirement plans. I'm sure many of you have either a 401k plan or 403b plan with the employer. So you'll have some options when the employment ends. Usually you can take your money right away, either a straight distribution or a rollover. Know that if you do take a straight distribution, the IRS is going to take 20% off the top, and if you're under the age of 59 and a half, they're going to take an additional 10%. If you do a straight rollover, there will not be any tax consequences until you actually physically take that money. One thing to note, if you do decide to keep your money with the employer, make sure that you keep them informed with any address change that you may have. The plan should be sending you out information at least on an annual basis, and we've had many situations where people are getting ready to retire and their company has either gone out of business or they've changed hands and people are having difficulties tracking down their retirement plans. We're always very successful in helping people locate their funds, but it can take some time to track them down. And if you're ready to retire, you're going to want your money right then. So again, very important, keep the plan up to date with your current information and make sure that you're getting, at least on an annual basis, statements from the company. Now, it's not a bad thing to keep your money with the employer. What you would want to do in making this determination, a lot of employers will cover the fees that are associated with the retirement plan. And those fees can eat up 1, maybe 2% of your earnings each year. So if your employer is currently covering those fees, it may actually be a wise decision to keep the money where it's at. If you were to roll it over maybe into your own IRA with a financial institution, that financial institution may charge you 2% in fees, and that's just going to eat away at your investments. So it's not necessarily a bad idea to keep your funds with the employer. Just make sure you're keeping up to date on everything. So here's to conclude, here's the information on how to reach us. That's our toll-free number. You can also go on our website at dol.gov/EBSA. We are fully staffed with benefits advisors that can answer any questions that you may have in regards to your benefits, anything in relationship to the job loss, or if you just have any questions in the future, any concerns about what your rights are in your benefit plans. Also, feel free to call us. Even if it's something we don't cover, we'll make sure that we get you to the right place. Our website also has an extensive list of publications available for all kinds of things, from saving for retirement, what your rights are to retirement plans, all sorts of things with health insurance plans. We have more specific information on your rights under HIPAA and under COBRA, all sorts of benefit information. So at this point, does anybody have any questions? All right, well, if nobody has any questions that they can think of right now, again, feel free to call our toll-free number And you can certainly ask for me. Again, my name is Scott Miller. And with that, I thank you guys very much for your time and for attending today and wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Okay, this is Annie again. Thank you, Scott. And last but not least, we want to talk about unemployment insurance benefits. And to do that, we have Leonard Gore from the Illinois Department of Employment Security, IDES. So go ahead, Leonard.
Hello. Thank you very much for that, Annie. And yes, my name is Leonard Gore. I'm with the Illinois Department of Employment Security. And today I'm going to briefly go over the entire process of what unemployment insurance is, basically how to file, who is eligible for unemployment, and how we calculate the amount of benefits that you'd be eligible to receive and when you'll be able to receive them. We'll also go over, briefly touch on Illinois Job Link, which is our state available job matching website, and it's always there for you to assist in your job search going forward. So to get started, a little background on the unemployment insurance benefits overview. And as you can see here, unemployment insurance is a state-administered program that is designed to provide workers with financial assistance during temporary periods of involuntary unemployment or underemployment. Now, one thing I want to mention here, you see at the bottom, there is a common misconception that unemployment benefits are a benefit that you as an employee have paid into throughout your various time at your employer. That's actually a false statement. It's actually an insurance tax that is paid by all Illinois state employers. They pay into an unemployment insurance fund, and when they let you go and when you become laid off, you are eligible to receive benefits out of that collective fund. It's kind of like how we all pay car insurance. Everybody pays their monthly premiums to State Farm or whatever, and when you get into an accident, you file a claim, and State Farm pays for the damage or to repair your vehicle, but your premiums go up. It's the same for employers. It's actually an insurance for the employer. So when they let you go, their little bit of tax increases so that they have to pay a little bit more every quarter to the fund. So just to let you know, it is available to you, but it's unfortunately not money that you put aside, just for clarification. Now, we're going to go over the monetary eligibility requirements for being eligible for benefits. As you can see here, there are two main conditions. You must have been paid at least $1,600 or more in wages during your base period for insured work. And that basically means that within the 12-month window of time that we are looking at, in terms of your wages that you've been paid, we're going to look to see if you've made at least $1,600 in total over that 12-month period. So it's not a very high threshold to become at least minimally qualified. Second condition, at least $440 of your base period wages were paid outside the calendar quarter in which your wages were highest. So I'll touch on base period and what that is later, but essentially a base period is 4 3-month quarters that add up to a 12-month period. One of those quarters inevitably will be the highest of the four, and again, the total amount has to be $1,600 across the board, but outside of that highest quarter, you have to have at least $440 in the other 3 quarters combined. So you could have $1 million in one quarter, but if the other 3 quarters add up to $400, you will not be eligible. All right, now the base period, briefly, I don't want to go on, you'll see there's a lot of dates here, and I don't want to confuse anyone about this, but essentially, we are looking at a specific 12-month period prior to the quarter that you are in when you file your claim. So for instance, we're in August of 2015 right now, and if you look across, you'll see that the base period wages that we'd be looking at go from April 1st, 2014 to March 31st, 2015. So anything that you received in terms of wages in that 12-month period is what we're going to use to calculate your weekly benefit amount. Now, anything that was paid before that or anything that has happened after March 31st, 2015 will not be calculated in your weekly benefit amount. So again, it's only that 12-month window. And as you can see in various times of the year, you'll see how your base period may change and different quarters become available and drop off as time goes by. Now, the base period that we're talking about here is what we call a standard base period. It's the first check that we make to see if you're eligible. If you're not eligible using this standard base period, we will then use what's called an alternate base period. And the alternate base period, essentially, we take the first quarter of that base period and we cut it off, we ignore it, and then we include the most recently completed quarter. So in that example, you'll see that this base period ends on March 31st. In an alternate base period, it would end June 30th, which is the second quarter of 2015. So just in case you don't qualify in the first base period, we then use the second alternate base period. Now here you can see the minimum and maximum benefit amounts for unemployment. And as you can see, the maximum benefits in Illinois is 26 payable weeks in a 1 year or 52-week period. And you'll see here the minimum benefits required or allowed are $51 per week on an individual basis, and it can go all the way up to a maximum of $426 a week on an individual basis. Now, there are two different types of dependent allowances that can be added on to your individual weekly benefit amount. There's a non-working spouse dependent allowance, and you can see the minimums and maximums for that. And there's also the individual with a child under the age of 18 dependent allowance. You can see the amounts there as well. The child allows a higher payment than the spouse. However, you can only collect one or the other. You cannot collect both. So you may have a non-working spouse and a child under 18. We recommend that you add the child under the age of 18 so that you can get the maximum benefits possible. There is also a way to add a child over the age of 18. However, they have to have some sort of medical disability or other kind of impairment that is causing them to remain independent under your care. So that is just something to keep in mind. Non-monetary eligibility requirements. This is just a brief kind of overview of the things that aren't associated with money. Again, you must be involuntary unemployed or underemployed. You must be able, available, and actively seeking work. You must complete your registration in Illinois Job Link. You must serve 1 waiting week, and you must certify every 2 weeks. I'm going to cover all of these points as we go along, but this is just basically the bullet point of what you need to do in order to be eligible for benefits. Where and when to file. Now, there are multiple ways for you to file your unemployment claim. The main way that I would recommend that everybody files a claim is through the internet. And you can see here our website is www.ides.illinois.gov. And it's available anytime, Monday through Friday. Actually, even on weekends, you can file a claim. And that website is very good for people to kind of go over and read about how the unemployment process. Everything I'm talking about here will be available online for you to kind of pursue on your own time. But definitely, I recommend filing your claim online as opposed to the other options, which are good, but the other options do come with a little bit of a time constraint, such as you may also file your claim by contacting our Claimant Services Center. As you can see, the number there is 1-800-244-5631, and they are open Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, except for any state or federal holidays. You can file your claim with them. All you need basically is and I'll go into detail later as to what you need, but that is another avenue for you to use in terms of filing the claim. The last way to file a claim is by going to a local office. And yes, there are still local offices available throughout the city of Chicago and throughout the state. They're dwindling day by day. Unfortunately, a lot of them have closed in recent times. And if you do decide to go into the local office, they more than likely will just sit you at a computer in their office and have you file the claim there as well. So you may not have a way of avoiding doing it by computer, but at least that is a last resort option. I'll say that. Now, the information you'll need to file your claim goes like this. You will need to verify your Social Security number. So if you have your Social Security card, that'd be great, or any other document with your Social Security number on it. And you'll also need your driver's license or state ID. So one or the other, that'll be used in your registration when you go online to file your claim, or if you were to go in person to the local office, you'll need both of these documents to verify your identity. You'll also need the names, addresses, phone numbers of all the employers you've worked for in the past 18 months. So this basically covers that base period that we were talking about, where we're looking for any and all wages that you've made in the past year to year and a half. You'll also need to know approximately the number of days you've worked for each employer and the reason for separation. The reason why I added approximately there is, in many cases, an employee has worked for a company for many years. I mean, not even that, maybe just a few months. To be honest, Nobody in their right mind knows exactly how many days to the number that they've been employed by anybody. I'll be honest, I don't know how many days I've worked for the state, but I can give you a rough estimate by just taking, you can simply just take the number of days you work in a work week, so you can take 5 days a week. If you were to say you took 2 weeks of vacation a year, so that's 50 weeks of work, 5 times 50 is 250 days. You could put that in there for the however many years you may have worked there, or just put a rough estimate. It is not required to be exact. If you were only employed for a short amount of time, would that be more important to be precise in terms of the number of days? But in general, put a good guess as to how long you've worked for each employer. You'll also need to provide us with any information regarding a pension or retirement payments you're receiving, including Social Security. One of the caveats of collecting unemployment while receiving these benefits is that some pensions and retirement payments are partially disqualifying income, which means that they would count against your unemployment benefits depending on what type of payments you're receiving. And that would be something that would be covered later on as you file the claim, and you may have to contact someone at the Claimant Services Center for more information regarding that. But again, they do consider that as disqualifying income in some situations. Again, as I said there, if you're claiming your spouse as a dependent or your child as a dependent, please have their name, date of birth, employment status, and Social Security number. And again, you cannot claim both the spouse and dependent as a child. Usually it's one or the other. And for people who perhaps you may have had, if your spouse was also on unemployment themselves and claimed their dependent, your dependent child on their claim, you cannot collect that same dependent on your claim should that first parent's claim stop. If they started the claim in April of 2015 and then you are filing the claim now, you would have to wait until the other parent's claim year ran out before you could switch the dependent to your claim. So that's just something, it's one child dependent per household. Now what happens next? Now after you file your claim, the first thing that you want to be looking out for is a UI or unemployment insurance findings letter. This is a very important letter. It's going to summarize everything you need to know about your claim. And as I'll go over here briefly, it'll show you the wages reported by your employer in each quarter of your base year. So it'll show you quarter by quarter how much you made, and those numbers are what's going to be used to calculate your benefits. You'll also see the weekly benefit amount and the maximum benefit amount, which essentially is your weekly benefit amount times 26, or the number of weeks that you are available to collect for benefits, and if you were eligible for any dependent allowances as well. You'll also see your payment type, which is direct deposit or debit card, and I'll go into that later on as to how to choose which option you'd like to receive your money. And then finally, your first certification date. Now you can see here you cannot receive benefits for a week of unemployment until you have certified for that week and have met all the eligibility requirements during that week. Certification is very important, and I will say this, it is the specific function that you will do that gets you paid. So if anything you take from me today that you're going to make sure to remember, you want to remember that your certification is very, very important to you and your money. So basically, on this letter, you'll be given a date during the week to certify. It'll either be on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. That will be your bi-weekly certification date, or every 2 weeks you'll be required to certify. And certification is basically you answering a series of questions about the previous 2 weeks' unemployment, questions such as were you able to work, available to work, did you work and earn any wages, did you go to school, so on and so forth. And it's very easy because you've already gone through the previous 2 weeks. So essentially, if you filed a claim today, you may get a letter that says your first certification date is August 18th. And if that were the case, you would be certifying for the prior 2 weeks between August 2nd and August 15th. So remember, you're only focused on those questions are in that specific 2-week window that you are certifying for. And benefits are paid for calendar weeks of unemployment. And for us, a calendar week begins on Sunday and ends on Saturday. So a lot of people may have different periods or pay periods. Maybe your pay period starts on a Monday and ends on a Sunday. We wanted to make sure that when you're reporting on your certifications, always go from Sunday to Saturday of each of the weeks. That's the main thing that will keep you from getting tripped up. And there are 2 ways to certify for benefits. You can certify online, which is obviously very recommended. You can take your time. You can read the questions and go through it at your own pace. And certifying online is very easy if you are comfortable using computers. There is also a phone number that you can call to certify, and I will get that phone number to you in just a second, but I want to make sure, again, to reference here, you have to certify every 2 weeks. And the first eligible week of benefits following the start of your claim is considered a waiting week. Now, it's not literally a waiting week, a week that you have to wait through. It's just what we call the first administrative week of your unemployment claim. And when you certify, as I said earlier, you're certifying for 2 individual weeks. That first payment will not be given to you for the first week. That's the waiting week. So your first payment will only be 1 week of pay. Every certification after that, however, will be 2 weeks of pay if you're eligible for both weeks. So just keep that in mind, that the first payment is usually half of what your normal payments will be going forward. And again, here's the website. Again, it's our main website, IDES.illinois.gov, under Certify for Weekly Benefits. Also, you can do it by phone, which is the system we call teleserve. It is 312-338-IDES for 337, and it's available by phone 5 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now, just want to mention here, again, we touched earlier on the fact that you have a specific day during the week to certify, either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Let's say for whatever reason the day gets away from you, you forget completely that you have to certify, and the day passes. Well, you have available makeup days to certify, and that is Thursday or Friday of the same week. So if your day was supposed to be on Monday and it's now Tuesday and you forgot, then you can just wait until Thursday or Friday to catch up, and that's very simple to do. It's the same questions, the same procedure. It's just, unfortunately, your pay will be delayed a little bit because of the lateness of your call. Now, if, for instance, you forget the entire week, I don't know how this is possible, but let's say you miss Thursday and Friday as well, you still have the following week's days to certify, which is, again, your designated day or Thursday or Friday of the following week. So you have 3 more days to catch up. And for whatever reason, if you just Rip Van Winkle this and you decide to take 2 weeks off and not do anything, you still have 1 final day to certify, and that's your next scheduled certification date. So for instance, if your day was supposed to be the 3rd, that final certification date you have available is the 17th. So those are your available days to certify. And again, if you have any questions when certifying, please feel free to call the Claimant Services line. Generally, they can help prevent unforeseen errors that may cause a delay in your payments. If you were to say certify and you feel like you made a mistake, you can call them right away, and if they fix your mistake, you will not experience a delay in payments. Now, some of the questions that are covered on your certification start with the able, available, and actively seeking work. Essentially, these are the 3 A's. There's like the holy trinity of being eligible for benefits. Now, during each week, you must be willing, ready, and able to accept a suitable job. You must be able to work, and what that means is physically able to work, like you don't have any kind of medical restrictions, you're not laid up in the hospital or in a cast, you can go to work. Available for work, which is essentially there is nothing preventing you from accepting work if it was offered to you. You're not on vacation, you're not on jury duty, you're not in the witness relocation program. You're essentially able to work. If someone wanted to call you right now and say, would you like to take this job? There's nothing stopping you from saying yes. And then finally, there's actively seeking work. Essentially, it's essentially what you're going to be doing anyways, which is you're going to look for new work, correct? But what we want you to do is to keep a log of your job search record efforts as you go through each week of unemployment. So what you can do is you can go online to our website. I think it's also available in one of the files here, a copy of the work search record. And essentially it's like a spreadsheet where you just track what you did for whatever week. There are 5 entries for each week on our record, but don't limit yourself to 5 searches per week. Use as much of that space as you need to for each available week of work search, because as time goes by and you're on unemployment, you may be required to submit your work search for an audit. And if you're doing this to the best of your ability, doing 5, 10, 15, 20 job searches a week is a very simple process of just sending in your documentation. And again, the more searches, the better. And the more varied searches, the more complete, thorough searches, the better. And if you're covered, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Also, I say here on the report unavailable days, when you certify, this is something else I want to touch on. If you're not available for any days during your certification period, please list those in the week that you were not available. So for instance, during any given week, you can choose to say between 1 and 5 days of unavailability. Essentially, you will not be paid for that specific date of unavailability. So for a 5-day week, 1 day of unavailability is 20% of your weekly benefit amount. So for each day, it's another 20%. Now, you don't lose that money when you report your unavailable days. The money stays in your balance. You can just collect that amount later. Okay, so don't feel like you're cutting yourself short by reporting unavailable days. It is required for you to do that. And if for whatever reason any kind of protest or anything were to come up, and they were somehow, some way, we got word that you were on vacation for 5 days, that could cause problems down the line and cost you a lot more than just the one week of benefits that you could have just delayed, basically. So just keep that in mind. Report any unavailable days you might have during any given week. Again, save your written records for at least a year from the week that's passed. So basically, within a benefit year, just keep all your records, and you can usually just start over if you were to start a new claim a year from now. And you can also use Illinois JobLink as a work search tool as well. Now, partial benefits, I'm going to briefly go over this. Now, while you're on unemployment, the hope is that you do find some work. Not all work will be full-time. We definitely recommend that if you can only find part-time work as a stopgap, we definitely recommend it. And getting part-time work can be a benefit to you because you can claim benefits and collect unemployment. You can claim benefits and collect part-time wages at the same time. So for instance, when you certify, you have to report your gross earnings for each week earned, not received. So a main problem that people make is they wait for their check to report their income. We don't want you to do that. You don't have to wait for a check to know how much you've earned. It's simply hours worked times rate of pay. That's it, between Sunday and Saturday of the week. So you went to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 20 hours of work in that week, you make $10 an hour. That's $200 of gross earnings. And that's all you got to do. And then you start over for the next week. Now, as you can see here, earnings in excess of 50% of your weekly benefit amount, but still less than your weekly benefit amount in total, not including the dependent allowance, will be deducted from your weekly benefit amount, resulting in partial benefits. So, for example, if your weekly benefit amount was $200, you can earn up to 50% of that amount, or $100, before and no benefits will be deducted. If you go over 50%, let's say you made $50 extra and made $150 total, then that $50 is deducted from your $200, and the benefit amount you receive will be $150. So you can still get a good chunk of your benefits no matter how much you make, all the way up to $1 under your weekly benefit amount. And you still get the full dependent allowance no matter how much we may deduct for partial benefits. Now, if your wages for the week are equal or greater than your weekly benefit amount, the wage deductions would eliminate your benefits for that week. Now that all that does is it just stops your claim temporarily, which hopefully will be indefinitely, because hopefully that work will continue and you'll continue to make more than your weekly benefit amount. But just remember, in case you need to, let's say that was just a 1-week thing, and in the next week your wages went down to a level that's under your weekly benefit amount. The thing is, you can't just certify again to start it back up. You just can't continue certifying. Your claim closed the moment you entered that wage amount over your weekly benefit amount. So you will have to file what's called an additional claim. Now, that is basically the same type of claim that you filed to begin your claim. So it's not like it's anything really different. The only thing that you're doing differently is you're adding the work history that you just completed or you're currently going through right now, and you're just giving us the day you started that job, the day you finished that job, or the most recent day you worked, and the separation reason. So maybe you got laid off, maybe you were fired, maybe you quit, or maybe the job is still ongoing and you're still working at a part-time capacity. That's what you're adding. You don't have to worry about doing a completely new procedure to file this next claim. Payment options, very important. So here, there are 2 ways to receive your benefits when you file a claim. I'll say this. Every claimant that files a claim will receive a debit card. It's a Chase debit card. It's got a MasterCard logo on it, and all claimants receive this no matter what, regardless of whether you ultimately decide to do direct deposit. Direct deposit is the preferred and most reliable way to receive your benefits. I would highly recommend everybody sign up for direct deposit almost immediately after you complete your claim, actually. So that way that the direct deposit can be ready to go as your first 2-week certification period begins, and it can be ready with plenty of time before your first certification. Benefits are received within 2 to 3 business days after you certify. So if you were to certify, let's say today on the 18th of August, you should receive benefits as early as Thursday, the 20th, 2 days later. Sometimes it comes in the third day after that, but that's in rare cases. The debit card is the same way. You can also receive benefits in 2 to 3 days after that. And keep in mind that the debit card does come with fees that are attached to various transactions. I believe you get a couple of free transactions, whether it's withdrawing from an ATM or checking your balance, but it will start deducting from your overall money the more you use the card for various services. So keep that in mind. That's why I recommend signing up for direct deposit. The only way to do for direct deposit is online. So if you're going to file your claim online, just immediately after you're finished, go back and select that you want to enroll in direct deposit and get that started right away. Now, unemployment insurance benefits are subject to state and federal income taxes. So just like anything, this country, we're going to have to pay the tax man in some way, and unemployment benefits are no exception. However, depending on your situation, one way that you can kind of help yourself out in the short term is you can choose to not have one or both of those taxes withheld as you collect it. So the state amount is 3.75%, the federal is 10%. If you choose to say no, that portion of your benefits remains in the pay that you get. So essentially you can get more money short term right now by not electing to have taxes deducted, or you can choose one or the other. You can say yes to federal and no to state, or vice versa, or you can say yes to both. The main thing to keep in mind is no matter what your options and what selections you make, you will receive a 1099-G tax form the next year to file your taxes, because you have to report your unemployment benefits as income. And essentially, the more taxes you take out now, the less to zero that you have to pay later. If you don't take taxes out now, you inevitably will be paying a portion for your taxes the following year. So that's just a way to keep that in mind. You can always change it at any time. If after a few weeks you might say, you know what, I'm not getting enough money, let me stop withholding the taxes. You can always do that by calling Claimant Services, and they'll let you know you'd like to make a change. Dislocated workers, Kathleen talked about this earlier about WIOA and the different opportunities that you have, so I won't go into this in detail, but just, again, refer back to what Kathleen said and with IllinoisworkNet in terms of looking for WIA programs. One thing I will mention is if you are interested in going to school, make sure that it is under this WIOA Act, because school attendance is allowed. We do recommend and encourage you to go back to school and get training to get back to work. But if you specifically have a WIOA training approval, you would provide that to IDES, and that will give you an automatic approval for benefits in terms of attending school. No matter how long or how intense the training may be, that is an automatic guarantee that you will get benefits while you take part in this WIOA training. So keep that in mind. All right, Illinois Job Link. Illinois Job Link is the internet-based job search research tool for posting and finding jobs in the state of Illinois. So essentially, it is a mandatory requirement that everybody is on Illinois Job Link and utilizes it as a job searching tool in order for their benefits to continue unimpeded. Basically, to register and complete your registration, you have to complete your general profile, and you also have to upload a resume to the site. Now, the main thing about uploading a resume is that, of course, like any job search tool, resume gets your name out there. It gives people a snapshot of what your skills are and what you are looking for in terms of a job. And the good thing about getting your resume on here is that employers use Illinois Job Link just like you do to search for potential employees. And the benefit to them is that Illinois Job Link is free to use. You may know about Monster.com, Indeed, Career Builder. Those are obviously sites that everybody knows about, but they charge people to post jobs on their site. The state of Illinois does not charge a penny for an employer to use Illinois Job Link as their posting option. So it may allow you to see jobs that may not be readily available on a lot of those other sites. And definitely what also will happen is they have the ability to look through resumes that are in this site and go over them and see if they may be able to contact you directly. If they just looked at your resume, you didn't even know that they were looking for you, they may contact you and say, we need to talk. We'd like to offer you a job of some kind. So it's very important to upload a resume, or you can also use the resume builder on our website that will help you create a resume as well. And the main thing about keeping your Illinois Job Link registration complete and current is that you have to basically just kind of refresh your resume every so often. There's a way to set the amount of days your resume is visible for viewing, and as time goes by, that amount of days decreases until it gets to zero. And if your resume visibility goes down to zero, your resume is not being seen, and your benefits could be in jeopardy if you do not reset that. So that's our way of kind of making sure that you use Illinois Job Link regularly and update your resume as needed. And you can upload as many resumes as you need. And as Kathleen was mentioning, it's often a good tip to have multiple resumes in multiple different fashions. You don't always have to just cram everything into one resume. We definitely recommend making separate resumes for if you have different skill sets. Make a resume for one skill set and make a different resume for a different skill set or a different type of job that you're trying to look to get. And again, I mentioned earlier, it's no cost to you. It allows employers to connect to you based on keywords in your resume, and it's available Monday through Friday, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day. Use the Illinois Job Link to the best of your ability, and hopefully it will be the tool that gets you back to work. And just to mention briefly again, unemployment benefits are a temporary fix. I always want to make sure you understand that you have 26 weeks to collect within a 52-week window. You don't have to collect all of those benefits at once. Hopefully you don't have to, but in some cases you may go through it very quickly. So keep that in mind. You have a minimum of you have at least 26 weeks of paid benefits to collect over your year period. And I hope that nobody has to go through this for very long. This is not a very fun thing to talk about, unfortunately, but that's what we're here for, to help you guys out. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the pod, or just generally ask them at any time by calling Claimant Services at the number we provided earlier. So is there any questions for me today, right now? All right, cool. Well, thank you very much for allowing me the time to speak to you, and I hope you guys have a great day and good luck.
Okay. Thanks, Leonard. This is Annie again. We've come to the conclusion of this morning's webinar, and I just want to thank everyone for your participation today. I hope that you found the information useful. Again, just a couple of wrap-up items, and that is we highly encourage you to go out to the IllinoisworkNet.com page for CDI-Head Start, and when you get to that page, and you'll find a link in the chat pod there, Dee just put it up, you will see a little icon at the bottom of the page labeled Survey. We ask that you go ahead and fill out that survey. It does allow us to continue to provide services like this webinar and other things to people who may be in your shoes, down the road. In addition, if you have any coworkers who were unable to attend today, this session was recorded and it'll be posted up on that CDI Head Start page on Illinois WorkNet, so they can always access it there. One other thing I would mention too, in that survey, it does ask you a question whether you'd like to be contacted by an Illinois WorkNet center, and if so, it asks for your contact information. We do look at those, so definitely if you're interested in any of the job search or job training services that we mentioned earlier in the beginning, please complete that. And if there are no questions, we come to the end. So on behalf of the Rapid Response Team, I just want to wish all of you the best of luck with your future endeavors. Please